Hello and welcome. We are back to another show of Eclectic Dialectics. I have Dr. Monica Montoya with us today. We're super excited about our talk on lifestyle correlations to the onset of symptoms related to peri and postmenopause. We'll do a deep dive and break down and weave together all of the different tips and modalities to help us live our best life during this time.
Yeah, this is such an incredible time in our lives where it feels like so much is happening at once, where we've got like so much responsibility going on with our work lives, with our family lives, kids growing up to be a bit bigger, or some people, some women who started having children later, right? Like trying to go through this and raising small children can be entirely overwhelming. And It's a really a time of great change inside, right? It's like crossing over from one realm of being fertile and shedding our uterine lining every month to not having anything to do with that and how that changes our body and impacts us, as well as how that it can be considered an elevation, especially if we're allowing ourselves to connect to what the body is asking for in terms of support.
Right, exactly. And it's listening to those internal cues and taking note of them and seeking what modalities might help expand and or alleviate some of the ones that are um, not exactly benefiting us. So with that on our little PowerPoint here. So, to get going here, deficit in biological markers and a spectrum of symptoms are triggered. Underlying health issues are exacerbated and directly correlated, i.e., hot flashes, brain fog, mood changes, sleep disturbances, weight gain, joint pain, blood sugar issues, digestive issues, energy, skin, and hair and changes and libido changes. So there's a lot going on at this time of our lives, and it can seem a little overwhelming and distressing.
Right. All in the midst of trying to still make a busy life happen
Right.
and relationships to be stable and pleasant. So many of those challenges come into play. But, you know, the cool thing is that number one, we understand it a whole lot more. Women are coming out and sharing the challenges and the experiences about it. And we're asking for better studies, for better correlative studies that are directly implicated by this time and change in life. So when we look at deficits or overabundance in some biological markers, certainly we're looking at our direct sex hormones. We've
Right.
got our total estrogen levels, which, I really tend to look at your estradiol, which is your active form of estrogen. That's the one that builds the lining of the uterus. There's also estrone, which is a bit more unstable form of estrogen and can cause some challenges in the body and is more inflammatory. And then there's estriol, which is more of a balancer and a stabilizer, particularly for the estradiol. So I always have a look at most of those, not really estriol, but certainly our estradiol as well as our estrone. The other thing we really look at is our progesterone levels. So typically, going back to estrogen, by the way, estrogen starts to take, I like to say it's like its own roller coaster ride. We've got our extreme highs and extreme lows and everything in between. And what that can look like in terms of a period is shortened cycles where you might have one instead of every 28 days, every 23 days. You might have some breakthrough bleeding. You might have a slow start to your period before you get to the real bleed. And also, the duration feels like you're bleeding
Right.
longer than a week.
Or heavy, heavy bleeding, it seemed.
Exactly. Because the other
Crazy
thing that starts
bleeding.
to
Yeah.
happen is the progesterone. It kind of takes a steady nosedive, and that can start happening in our late 30s.
Mhm.
And progesterone is what keeps the lining of the uterus stable. So the less we have of that, the less stability that we have, and we have more of that breakthrough bleeding or increased
Mhm.
amount of blood that we're losing.
Right. Yeah, that was very unpleasant. I noticed in my late 40s, that's something that I was noticing was incredibly heavy periods that seemed to just be really hard to manage, almost hard to leave the house sometimes. So that was distressing for sure.
Right.
And, that's when some of the mood changes, and libido changes. Um, those were the big things for me. But again, it's like we're talking about the deficits that each of us come into this individually. And that's again what the nice part of all this now is there's so much research, and we're realizing that everybody faces these challenges differently. Like some people don't get hot flashes, or some people don't have the skin and the weight changes, but some people are dramatically affected by those things. So that's where I feel like the big picture, the labs coming in, so you can get a snapshot of what actually is going on, and then taking a deep dive into what lifestyle components you might need to tweak or add into the repertoire in order for anything that you're doing with the doctor is working optimally and going the direction that it should be. Because lifestyle has a tremendous impact on the overall how things are going to start to shape and develop. So,
Absolutely. I find that clinically, the women I tend to see have more intensity of those key symptoms over perimenopause and menopause are stress levels and inflammatory markers. So if
mm,
you're quite inflamed, you're going to be one that's going to hold on to a bit more water. And even just the process and biochemistry of inflammation is like a stress response, a stressor on the body. That doesn't say anything about like how much sleep you have or haven't had, or how much, pressure you have in your life and demand
right,
that you have in your life, right? So all of that involves the adrenal glands. And so when we're at higher, the other key components is that when our estrogen drops and our progesterone drops, the relationship of cortisol on the body starts to change. It's almost like we feel the hit and impact of cortisol much more loudly during
right,
these perimenopausal phases. So because a lot of women will start to say, it's like, God, I used to be able to do this and not feel freaked out, or I used to be able to hold all of this, and now it feels like one small thing feels like a real
right,
big giant thing. Because that's again the difference of the hit of stress on the body when our sex hormones are out of whack.
right,
And add to that, when we're in those higher levels of stress component, one of the other things that we don't tend to look at very deeply is our thyroid. I mean, we might just get
mhm,
some real
yeah,
superficial markers that we look at,
right,
but when you're
right,
under high levels of stress, the back door reaction is for the thyroid to have some level of suppression. It's the
mm,
body's adaptive way to cushion itself from the overstimulation when we are hit by fight or flight stress chemistry. So when we drop
right,
that thyroid production, well, if that ends up being long term, that just adds to the issue, right? More brain fog.
right,
Tend to have more. So if our thyroid's low, we're going to have more brain fog. We're
right,
going to have more hair loss. We're going to have more weight gain, more fatigue. So it's again, it's this sort of domino effect that can happen once our sex hormones go out of whack, and then our stress hormones go out of whack as well
right.
with the wild and crazy life.
Yeah, and that's an invitation to really step back and start to see what is not serving you anymore. And it's like your body is like just sending you messages like it's time to reevaluate. And so to look back at what the nutrition, like how are you How are you nourishing yourself? Are you doing self-care? Are you just burning the candle at both ends? And maybe you were able to do that in previous decades, but at a certain point, it's not sustainable. And so, really, really, really looking at your lifestyle, I feel like is one of the top components if you are seeking to maintain your energy and your focus and um, not burn out your thyroid, not burn out your adrenals, because most of us are living unsustainable lifestyles. We're just go, go, go. We barely sit down, even take a moment for a nice lunch or a deep breath or a minute to process our emotions or anything. We're just on a constant hamster wheel. And this life is definitely not going to give you an invitation to stop. You absolutely need to take the initiative to do that. And when I work with my clients, it's like most people come to me after they've hit a wall so hard that they are just in a tailspin as far as where to start, what to do, and they feel out of control in all areas of their life. Their relationships are suffering, their health is suffering, they're not sleeping. They don't like the way they look, they don't like the way they think. And it's just like this cascade of symptoms that just start all crashing down because of these lifestyle um, issues that have been neglected for such a long time. But when you reach this point, you can't ignore it anymore because the body just doesn't respond. So,
Right. And symptoms, we always like to really drive home that our symptoms is our body communicating to us, asking
right,
us for support and really specific support. So, part of what we're trying to do here is decode the messaging of the body in the symptoms that it is relating to us. And then we can use lab tests and such to help us really kind of cue in and target where the imbalances are and
right,
then go after those things. But you can't, like, here we go, like, lifestyle is absolutely of utmost importance. And also,
yeah,
like, we know that we understand that there's so much demand, but again, this is an opportunity to evaluate like where you're going to put your priorities
right,
because symptoms only get louder, and the last thing we want is for it to hit us as a scream and we have no choice but to take a break. So
right.
that's really what we're looking at, is that we're looking at trying to address things when they're more at a whisper
Mhm.
versus a full-on siren.
Exactly. And I really think that I encourage my clients to start journaling and really kind of documenting throughout the day just their symptomology of exhaustion, if they feel mood changes, food cravings, digestion, sleep patterns, and starting to put the puzzle together to where maybe the deficits and where things are falling through the cracks and making adjustments to help support. And I think seeing it just in writing, and also it's so beneficial when you do go see a doctor such as yourself, having someone come in with at least a week or two's worth of just notes on, and then you can see also like where this is going, where the big picture, where the puzzle pieces are missing, and it just really helps dial in because again you're trying to figure out and pinpoint, and a lot of times the one size fits all approach just definitely does not work. So the more fine-tuned, and that also takes both the patient and the doctor working together, because the doctor is not a mind reader and they can only go by so much, but you coming in super prepared is just so much more helpful and beneficial to helping you achieve the results that you're looking for.
Right. We can use those symptoms as a collective to help guide us on what we need to target in terms of testing.
Right.
And another thing that's involved that really can change is our blood sugar metabolism,
Yes.
because the relationship of stress on our body also changes. And also, insulin is an endocrine, it is a hormone. So it is an endocrine stimulator. And so, with more stress, we will tend to have more insulin secretion, and especially we tend to have more sugar cravings when we're stressed too. So
Oh,
the
yeah.
drive is to have more carbs or more sugar at during those times. So then the insulin starts to go up, and guess what that insulin's going to do? It's a fat storage. And it keeps you, even if you are putting effort to lose weight, it keeps the things stored. It's like sealing in a deal and throwing away a lock and key, if our insulin gets too resistant and overabundant
So
in our
this is a
system.
perfect little segue to go into our next portion here, which is the nutrition. And so it seems like new studies are coming out more and more that are definitely women centric. And because I feel like a lot of the information that we were just throwing out there, we're actually it's all done on men studies. And so we were finding that women were not achieving the results that they were hoping for, using those directives, and that new information is coming out that is women specific, and women are actually like feeling the benefits of just changing their eating window. So we were told that intermittent fasting was the way to go, and exercising on a fast is the way to go, and they're finding that that works for men but not so well with women. So having a bit of protein before you start your exercise or your morning will help with the blood sugar regulation, the cortisol, and give you the energy you need for building muscle and your cognition. It's just something as simple as a low-hanging fruit of waking up and having a protein-rich breakfast in the morning can start you off on the right foot and kind of cut off some of those symptoms that um, have been plaguing women in the past, like running on fumes all morning, especially if you're a busy person and you're exercising, or you like have little kids, or you have a career. And women, we multitask, we juggle, and if you're not nourishing and giving your body what it needs, you're not going to be able to accomplish the tasks the way you would like to, and you're going to feel exhausted.
Right. And particularly starting your day just as this clean protein and full fats,
Yep.
minimizing your carbohydrate intake. Because again, that's going to set the tone
Right.
and the set the tone of your insulin secretion during the day. Because remember, one of the things we want to do is keep our blood sugar levels pretty like
Right.
hilly. Like there's going to be highs and there's going to be lows, but we want it more like hills versus peaks and
Right.
valleys. Because when
Right.
we drop into the valleys, with or without the impact of life stress, we're going to be hit into thrown into a physiological stress because the brain will start to sense the drop in the sugar levels. So
Right.
what happens? It's going to signal your adrenals to send out cortisol because cortisol instructs the liver to do what's called gluconeogenesis. It breaks down your glucagon so that it can transform it into glucose, in which the brain uses for energy. And so if we have that happen, we're already getting set and put into fight or flight. And usually what will accompany that again is a sugar craving or a carbohydrate craving, because
Right.
that's what the brain wants, especially if
Right.
that's how you set the tone for the day.
Right. And also, like, the whole fat phobic thing is such a fallacy because full fats such as butter, olive oil, or full fat dairy, those things are such importance, especially for the way our sex hormones and our brain functions. And without those, you see it's just such a deficit from just your your mood is severely affected by having not enough good quality fats in the diet, and as well as the metabolism of your sex hormones. And I've seen people on low fat diets, and definitely not living their best life. And it's just so, again, something as simple as just adding those high quality full fat dairy in there, or a really high quality olive oil, or butter, or cheese. Those things can make a world of difference. Coconut oil.
And
So
again, quality is so important to
quality is
have on our next list
everything.
as organic, and especially
Yes.
with fats,
Yes.
because if you have a non-organic oil that you're using, whatever chemicals are in there, it's more likely for that to get stored in our own fat. And
Right.
that's the last thing that we want to. We just have toxic buildup in our system. And also a lot of these chemicals in our foods, they can be hormone disruptors. So even if you are
Absolutely.
producing your hormones appropriately, your cells might not be able to read it because the receptors are being occupied by some of these toxicants.
Right.
So,
And those are hormone disruptors, thyroid disruptors, immune disruption, and also a catalyst for disease.
mhm,
So it
exactly,
weakens the body,
right,
weakens the organism, all those things. They definitely don't help.
exactly.
Yeah. And gut
Um,
health too. I mean, again, I think that is becoming such a big topic, and everybody's trying to figure out how to optimize their gut health, whether it's through fermented foods. Colostrum is another one that people are talking about, eating a variety of foods, eating seasonally. I feel like all those things can really aid in just creating a healthy gut microbiome, not even necessarily adding a probiotic or a prebiotic. I feel like, excuse me, if you're eating a variety of foods, which the gut really, really likes, having different vegetables, different fruits, and the fermented foods can just help naturally produce that a state.
right. And an interesting piece too, everything is connected. So when we talk about gut health, well, going back to stress, right? If we are in a state of fight or flight when we sit down with our food, even if we have the cleanest food, really a good variety of a whole meal, if we sit down and we're stressed out when we eat,
Right,
we're not producing the digestive enzymes as efficiently, or for some,
absolutely.
really not at all, because that fight or
Absolutely.
flight and that sympathetic nervous system that's on overdrive doesn't allow for that blood flow to move into our digestive tract. So we really
That's
want
right.
to drop into the parasympathetic nervous system so that we
Absolutely.
can secrete those enzymes. Because if we don't have proper enzyme secretion, we don't break down our food well. That drops
Right.
into our intestines, and then secondary measures are going to move into place where either the gut microbiome is going to try to process those larger particles of foods that weren't processed, or the immune system is going to come in, and that's an inflammatory process. So if we have
Right.
that constant over abundance of inflammation in the digestive tract,
Right.
or even the microbiome, they're secreting their
Right.
own peptides and chemicals into the system, that can start to erode the protective lining of the gut,
Right. The
such
leaky
that
gut.
those cemented cells start to
Mhm.
separate. And then we get little food particles that can start to move
Right.
into the periphery. That's what we know as leaky gut.
Right. And then chronic bloating
Hmm.
occurs from that, and that's can be extremely frustrating. So, right, again, it's creating a space during mealtime that's conducive to mindful eating, that is where you can truly chew your food properly, enjoy each bite in a stress-free environment. Which again, the society we live in is like they don't allot for the time to really have time for food preparation and enjoying a meal properly. It's like get something, grab and go, shove it in your mouth while you're driving and on the phone at the same time. And
Right.
yeah, that creates a terrible environment for digestion because, like you said, when you're in fight or flight, the blood does not go to the digestive system, it goes to the limbs because you're being chased by the tiger now. So there's
Hmm.
no they're not going, it's not going to go to the digestive system. That's the last in line. So the food is just going to ferment and there's going to be a dysbiosis happening in there, and it's just going to cascade into a whole bunch of digestive issues, and which leads to constipation, diarrhea, gas, um, chronic stomach aches, acid reflux, and on and on and on. And
Absolutely.
so it's something just as simple. Again, the lowest hanging fruit is just finding a spot where you can sit and enjoy a meal that's conducive to creating a healthy digestion and a pleasurable eating experience. Eating should be
Yeah.
pleasurable. It should be a time where you can sit and enjoy the flavors of your food and nourish yourself.
Right. I always say to my patients that if your mouth is watering, you know that you're pretty well prepared. Because if we're secreting our saliva, that means
Right,
we're also secreting our digestive enzymes. So that's
right,
called that cephalic phase before we eat. Look at your food, smell your food. That's kind of being in that environment of
right,
where we could be in a celebration or community. But
right,
look at your food, smell your food,
right,
allow your body to mentally prepare and then also
right,
prepare your organs for that intake. When we break down our food better, I mean, we have here to limit or avoid highly processed food and sugar. That just means it's more nutrient empty. And if we don't, so if we're eating nutrient empty foods or depleted foods, if we're eating foods that we can't break down appropriately, ultimately the end game is that we're not absorbing and getting
right,
appropriate nutrition, which
right,
means what? Our physiological biochemical processes are going
right,
to be impacted and
right,
compromised because you don't have enough minerals or
right.
vitamins or
Yeah,
amino acids and peptides
right.
needed for these functions to orchestrate and create a healthy
That's
functioning
right.
human.
Because all those things that are happening, they all need the cofactors from the nutrients to get to those places that where they're needed to do their job. And if they're not
Exactly.
getting there to do their job, well, everything's just running at, you're lucky if you're at half steam. I mean, most people are living off of fumes, especially in my practice that I see people come to me. They are not honoring their biological body, their mental health, and it's like a runaway train. But
Mhm.
again, there's a certain point where you go off the rails and you got to get back on if you want to keep functioning in this world with some sort of quality.
Mhm.
Because you can't just chug along for a lifetime feeling like crap, being miserable, and just end up dying that way. And I've seen it over and
Yeah.
over, and we see it on, I would say, probably most of our society is living in that range of deficit when you look around.
Right. I mean, we have, a culture where busyness is glorified.
Right,
Busyness means you're successful.
right.
Busyness means whatever it means, but really we're just depleting ourselves and creating major imbalances that have endocrine or hormonal impacts.
Yeah. So, what do you think about eating times? Like, what is your take on what do you think are the best optimal eating times for before you go to bed? Obviously, we talked about having if you're a woman, getting up, having a protein-rich breakfast in the morning is
Mhm.
beneficial. So, as far as just as the day goes, what would you think is a good eating time windows?
Well, I always like to say first, listen deeply to your own process. Like, where are your hunger cues? And also, are your hunger cues impacted,
Hmm.
right? So, are they impacted because we're out of balance and we're malnourished and such, right? There's that. Um, if I have patients who wake up that feel nauseated and the last thing they can think of is having breakfast, well, then again, usually I'll connect that to an overloaded adrenal
Hmm.
function. But listening closely is important. Um, what I understand it to be and what I have witnessed it to be. So if you're listening closely, it's really what you start the day with. That's super important. So we talked about like having a good protein rich breakfast and some healthy fats. Like that's going to set your day
Right.
up really well. Now, in Ayurvedic medicine, we talk about like the peak times of our digestive fire, which is usually about 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So usually I like to encourage patients, although that's not really our culture, but to
Right,
encourage patients to have their biggest meals or more nutrient dense meals at lunchtime, like in that space. And
right.
then at the end of the day, right? So then the part where what time do you go to bed? I tend to tell patients 3 hours before you go to bed, although more ideally, like 6 to 7 p.m. should be like the
Yes.
end of it. Because,
That's the rule I follow. And I find
yeah,
that like by the time I go to bed, my digestion is well underway. I don't feel bloated. I don't feel like full. I feel like I'm ready to lay in bed and that the food isn't just going to be just sitting there overnight. So, and then
yeah,
when I get up, I've had a long fast, like maybe I have my breakfast around 9. Um, and I feel like that's like almost like a 14-hour window of fasting. And
yeah.
I feel like that's really just kept my digestive
Hmm.
fire and metabolism really going well for, a woman of my age in her 50s. So I feel like that's contributed to me being able to maintain a healthy weight, and also keep building muscle mass and mental clarity when I
Yeah,
need it, and my
yeah.
sleep too, which is critical for me.
Yeah. And there's a lot of other like if you eat too late, and I had to learn this the hard way. If you eat too late, there's excitatory hormones like histamine
Right,
that are secreted and that can actually start to interfere with your sleep quality. So
right,
that's another reason not to eat so late.
right,
And also just goes into that like you're not going to digest a dinner as well as you're going to
right.
digest a lunch simply because of digestive enzyme production. Now, certainly there's
I
some things that we can take, digestive enzyme enhancers or things like that that can help us digest better. So those are some
Yes.
things to keep in mind. But again, pulling in the intention of how we're going to structure our meals can be really powerful in creating lasting change.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Europeans really do have that, like you said, consuming most of the calories like during the day when they're mostly needed, and then having a light supper at night, and just honoring the opportunity to sit down and use food as a time of socializing, of pleasure, and then they also take a short nap afterwards to help assimilate the food, digest, relax, de-stress, and then be ready for the second half of their day. I think that's genius. I
Yep.
mean, I
And
think,
also just like not the rushed eating and,
yeah,
like the experience of eating a bite
yes,
at a time and
yes,
experiencing the bite. If you allow yourself to fully taste your food,
right,
be present with it, be in pleasure with it,
right,
there's a whole different energetic with that that's going to allow your stop button to
right,
be felt much more soon than
right,
if we just are hurrying up, shoveling down,
right.
food.
Fast food,
We're like so full we got to unbutton our pants and all of that stuff, which is we again that's like when we're not listening we
right,
bypass the actions that our body's asking for, the
right,
support that it's
right.
asking.
Because then you feel bloated and gassy, and then you have your crash, and you're starting to fall asleep at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you still have still got to get your stuff done. And so, yeah, you end up just feeling absolutely exhausted. And that's when the sugar cravings hit, and that's where the weight gain starts. And that's where it's just such a cascade. And it's
Mhm.
all just, again, it's just implementing the lowest hanging fruit, like just taking some time to eat your meal could be a tremendous help in mitigating some of the symptoms that you have.
Yep. I mean, one of the things you have here is breath work. Like that's an all day thing. Obviously, we can't survive
Right,
without it. But even if you took some nice deep breaths, 5 to 10 deep breaths with prolonged exhale
right.
right before
That's
you eat, that's going to shift your nervous system into that
right.
parasympathetic zone.
Yep,
Walking again, not only is that good for our fitness, but it's another activity that we could use that gets our
right.
circulation going, that also helps our body to better process the cortisol out of our system.
That's right. So
Um,
yeah, like the stress, like the next area of focus would be the stress because again, I feel like for me personally, I feel like the stress is the most destructive part of my personal paradigm is when I am so stressed out because I'm a type A person and I just burn myself out and my mental state suffers, my sleep suffers. I would say just the emotional instability, the crankiness, the just the mood swings. Um,
yeah,
for me personally are a big thing, but I know that other women are affected. Their weight is dramatically affected. The belly fat becomes bulletproof. You can't get rid of it. So that's the thyroid, that's the adrenals, depletion of the sex hormones. So I
mhm.
mean, I feel like stress just sucks the life out of all those areas in the body, and women are particularly affected by that.
Right. And we have to remember too that we only evolved to be in a state of fight or flight for like a minute, and that's even
Right.
pushing it. It's really to get ourselves out of a dangerous situation. But we literally have created these lifestyles where we're going nonstop. Not only that, we're distracted with our phones, we're distracted socially with all these other, like we have the weight of the world of our shoulder where we're watching all of these events happening all over the world at once and we're not meant to hold all of that. So
No.
that's again like the complexity of how stress can hit our system. And so
Yeah.
learning how to simplify our lives, tune out the
Right.
things that it's not
Right.
necessary in this moment, and allow yourself to drop in and to
Right.
be in rest, digest, and repair, you know.
Right. And also like taking note of what things like set you off, because a lot of things are in our control, like the company you keep, how much you stare at your cell phone, how much you watch the news, creating a space where you can go to where you can have a minute by yourself. And I have my little zone here where it's like I've got a nice view. I've got all the things around me that give me joy, that make me happy. And that's just my space. So when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I can sit down here and I can kind of like get back to home base again. And
Right.
like you said, sit down, take some deep breaths, look outside at nature, and come back to center. So
Exactly.
creating that for yourself, each individual is going to have their own thing that helps them to do that. But it's definitely beneficial. And again, it's something that pretty much any of us can do.
Right.
It's available to us.
Right. So much. So when we identify those things that we're troubled with, and I always say too that perimenopause and menopause is an opportunity because whatever is bothering us, right? Like whatever we don't have the patience for anymore, whatever is irritating us, it's almost like that um the time ticker on the inside saying, I've had enough. I've had
Right,
enough. Time to draw some boundaries. Time to
right,
take some space for myself. Time to give
right,
myself some attention because my body is out of balance,
right,
right? And that's part of the gifts of moving into our elder years, into the
right,
crone age, which is that wisdom. Because we've made if we can make it through that tunnel of fire, right?
right,
It is a transformative process. In our society, we tend to have a lot of pressures to remain young. You
right,
know, I think youthfulness is wonderful, but we're going to change. And if we can embrace change, number one, that's going to definitely allow us to have less stress in our life because a lot of things that we
right,
end up being overwhelmed with is like, oh my gosh, my belly is distended. Oh my gosh, my hair's falling out. Oh my gosh,
right,
like all of these things. Whereas if we can meet those things with grace and we can meet those
right,
things with what I really need, and we're allowing ourselves to have those things to help replenish us,
right,
we get to have so much insight and wisdom into place.
right,
And that's our position in society now. I mean, again, especially with the number of people who are challenged with all the uncertainties in our
yeah.
world, the more we can connect with our wisdom, it's just going to help us to carry us through these wild times.
Right. And there is this wisdom that you have after living inside of this body. for all those years, that getting to know this body and listening to it and responding with care and love and kindness and grace and and just being grateful and having gratitude that you're alive and you have so much more opportunity to flourish and expand at this time. It's not about contracting, it's not about shrinking, it's not about disappearing, it's about busting out into the next level as far as I'm concerned.
Being
And
fully authentic.
honoring what those years behind us have given us to get to this point that we're at now and celebrating that to
Yeah.
its fullest and radiating.
Yeah. Like loving ourselves unconditionally,
That's
truly
right.
unconditionally. I
Right.
love myself in every phase of my shift and change.
That's
And
right.
again, remembering there's so much beauty when we get through a certain number of years in our lives where we have enough to look back at, to witness ourselves having made it through hardship over and over again, so that when we look ahead in the road ahead with these changes in ourselves, that we can indeed do it, and we can do it with ease and grace as much as possible, especially if we learn how to have that self-awareness and attention to self-care.
Right. And I feel like if you do pay attention to those things, you will look great, you will feel great. And but again, it's not trying to fit yourself in the 25-year-old box. It's about expanding into your a new era
Mm-hmm.
and honoring the 25-year-old self, honoring the child within yourself, retaining that energy, that quality, that vitality, but not trying to squeeze yourself into being that 25-year-old self again, because that doesn't work at this time in our life. And it can be extremely damaging actually
And very
to,
expensive.
yeah. Yeah,
Right?
and not necessarily acquire the results that you hope for. It's not a panacea,
Right.
and it can actually have a tremendous backlash at the end of
Right.
the day.
The other thing too, I love to just bring humor into it all, right? Like,
Yeah. Oh,
okay,
there's
look
everything.
at this hot flash. I just like completely fogged up my glasses in front of a patient, you know. I just rather laugh about it than to be freaked out
Right,
about it. If my knee's hurting and I'm having a hard time getting up off the
right.
floor when I do some stretches, like, okay, here it is, right? So it allows me to move through the crunch of the change if I can have some humor with it as well as having grace with myself.
Yeah. A smile and a sense of humor it's always in vogue no matter what age you're at, but especially at our age, because seeing someone who's happy and has a authentic smile on their face, there's nothing more attractive to anybody than somebody who's happy in their life and excited about aging and maintaining their health and maintaining a happy life.
Yeah.
So I think that says more than any Botox or filler or anything at the end of the day is somebody who has a sense of humor and authentic smile on their face and are in a good space. People are
Yeah,
attracted to that more than anything, really. So,
absolutely.
yeah. All right, let's see. Oh, now we're getting okay. So now we're here we are talking about exercise, which for me personally, and with my clients, having a consistent regimen of exercise has been just my kind of my cornerstone of my health journey. But again, it's shifted as I've noticed. I used to be a long distance runner where I was running these crazy amount of miles every single week. Um, and I was doing a lot of mountain biking and I was doing a lot of dance, a lot of cardio. And I woke up one day and I remember I was running and I thought, I don't like this anymore. And just like my body intuitively knew that I was like deconstructing myself instead of building myself up. I actually felt like I was depleting myself and I was looking super gaunt. If you ever look at women who do a lot of marathoning and they just look depleted to me. You also lose a lot of your fat pads in your face, which ages you tremendously. It also really has messes with your hormones. It messes with your joints and it messes with the muscle fat, which is really important to maintain. People don't talk about that around the skeletal fat. I mean, so there's fat around your skeleton and just the integrity of the body. It really just starts to exponentially break it down, I think. And so now
Lots of
they're
muscle
finding
loss,
studies,
even in that effort, right? Like there's a lot of muscle loss in that kind of distance,
right?
like distance aerobic activity can start to eat away at the muscle
That's right.
because of
And
the
break
stress
down
and
the
stuff.
structure of the integrity of the body, which, of course, at this point in our life, we're looking at sustainability and longevity. So ideally, we all want to be able to live on on our own as long as possible. So it's really important to be mindful about keeping the structure and integrity of the body so you can do that.
Yep, yep. What do they say? A lot of people are talking about it, that muscle is our health insurance. It's our life insurance. So the more
Absolutely.
we maintain our muscle through the later years in life, that helps with our balance, that helps with our resilience, of course, our strength. It
Yep.
allows for better independence, right?
Right.
So thinking about the big picture and some of these basic things to have in place, it's so vital for our
Right.
quality of life ultimately.
So like weight training has become first in the forefront now about, maintaining the muscle mass. And they're saying that now it's always thought, oh, well, you can't maintain your muscle mass. And that's not true. As long as you are focusing on doing a heavier weight, that's not going to lead to injury. Working on your core strength, giving yourself the cofactors nutritionally to keep the muscles optimal, which adding creatine, the lean proteins. So maybe doing 15 to 20 grams of protein with each meal to support the weight training and the muscle development. Reduction in belly fat also helps with thyroid function and bone density is super important. So weight training helps with all those things, hormone levels. It's kind of like a magic bullet
Yep.
doing the weight training. And I've implemented it. I would say in the last 3 years, I've really gone, that's been my focus. I did a major reduction in aerobic exercise, and I'm focusing on the resistance training, whether it's with weights or the spring-loaded Pilates machines. It's been a game changer for
Yeah.
me. I've noticed just my body is probably in the best shape of its life actually right now. And I have great muscle tone, core strength. I can squat till the cows come home. I don't have any joint pain. And a lot of the other complaints that women my age have, I have not experienced that at all. And I think it's just because I've done these tweaks at when my body was telling me it's time
Mhm.
to shift. And I listened. And again, it's going back
Exactly.
to the listening, the whispering, the paying attention, like, is this serving me? And just finding new tools to upgrade and replace the old way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It keeps things
Absolutely.
interesting too.
Yeah. But it's so important too. If you don't know what you're doing with this, find somebody who can help you
Right.
because doing the exercises correctly, again, we have to think about when we lose our estrogen, our ligaments and tendons can get loosened up. So
Right.
we have more
Right.
joint instability. So there's, the mindfulness and the right technique that's so important to have in place. Not only that you can build your muscles properly, but that you have your alignment correct so that you don't
Absolutely.
create more problems,
Absolutely.
right? Like
Absolutely. So I would definitely say getting an assessment with a professional,
Mhm.
whether it's someone like me with a foundation in rehabilitative work, working with an older clientele. I understand just how the body starts to break down as age comes. And so it's nice to get a professional assessment to see where your deficits are, where the areas of focus should be worked on. And if you have joint pain, if you have, let's face it, people getting knee replacements, hip replacements, they've got spinal issues, old injuries are creeping up. And so you're dealing with a lot of factors. So getting an initial assessment and perhaps working with someone one-on-one to help you just kind of get you off on the right foot. So, because injury will definitely set you back and you won't be able to exercise at all if you're in pain or if
Yep,
you are hurt. So, yeah,
absolutely.
definitely.
I mean, I could not have found my way back without proper instruction because I was used to just going hard off the blocks. I grew up as an athlete, and the way that my body changed was such that even a gentle workout felt like a trauma. So,
Right.
so being able to work with somebody who understands those changes in your body allows you to not only stay really consistent with the work, but to move away from the fear zone that we can tend to have when we're first starting
Right.
our process.
Right. Because sometimes, especially if you haven't been consistently exercising, inflammation might come up. Things are shifting around, the structures are shifting, the muscles are being stimulated. And you might go through a period of, some uncomfortableness while the shift is happening. But again, honoring where you're at physically, trying to cram, yourself into this new regime, it takes time.
Hmm.
You need to honor that because Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is building the ideal body that you want or the ideal health. It's one foot in front of the other. Consistency is key. Listening to your body, working with the right people that can help you get to your goals is critical. So it's a team, and trying to do this all on your own can be overwhelming. So, and again, being kind to yourself, allowing 6 months to a year to start to really feel these new things integrating in as just lifestyle habits. And one day you wake up and you have transformed.
Hmm.
It
And
just
that's the
depends on where you
important piece.
start.
Yep,
Yeah,
important piece to keep in mind. It
right.
it takes time to do it well.
That's right.
We can go into these like 6 weeks and you're down 30 pounds and you have a six pack abs. Like, sure, I think we all want that, but it's just really not sustainable, realistic.
And it can
And
set you up for frustration and quitting
right.
and disappointment and also just wasting your money on all these fad things and potentially even hurting yourself or putting your health in jeopardy.
Mhm.
So it's really important to be realistic as well, because a lot of the stuff that we're seeing is just, it's not realistic. Most women don't look like that. Most aren't living like that. And it's just not feasible.
Right.
So being realistic is really important. And then growing from there. So, incrementally.
Right. And being in celebration of every little darn thing that we do,
That's
right?
right.
Like,
Every gain, every
yep,
positive forward
yep,
is something to be grateful for, and it just keeps propelling you to continue to do that.
exactly. There's a brain chemistry with that too, that if you can not only have like a positive reaction for every little thing that you do, even like, wow, I made a better choice right there. I,
Right,
showed up for this today.
right,
I, crossed this threshold on the weight I lifted. That's awesome. The other thing too is making sure you don't move into self-criticism because
right,
self-criticism also wires things up for the brain that you're experiencing failure. And that's a very heavy thing to carry, right?
right.
So if we're just like, if we don't do something the way that we wanted to, instead of moving into criticism, move into curiosity, like, okay, this is what I'll do next time. This is how I'll support myself next time,
Right.
right? Again, knowing that we're setting something up in the brain. I'll come back with that biochemistry, but there's
Yeah,
a whole neuroplasticity that can happen just by
right.
simply having grace. having
Right.
curiosity about how you could do it better next time, and celebrating every little win.
Right. And it's a process of discovery, especially this time of our lives, the peri and postmenopausal years. It's all about discovering uh, a new paradigm, how you fit into society, what your new lifestyle is, what your focus is. It shifts, it changes. Where I'm personally finding myself, the kids are gone, and I have all this time and energy to focus on two different opportunities that are exciting, and I'm embracing this time. I have more time for myself. I have more time to spend on self-care and discover new modalities that I'm adding to the repertoire that have really enhanced my overall lifestyle. And so it's been fun. It's a journey, and it doesn't have to be drudgery. It's exciting to discover new things. And some
Mhm.
things I try and they, aren't worth the time or energy. And so you don't implement them, but it definitely isn't like life does not stop at menopause. It's a new chapter, and it's an opportunity to
Yeah.
write a beautiful story, I think.
I do too. I mean, I like to say that I've just moved into the toddler phase of my elder years. And, just be again, when you're a toddler, you're running around, you don't care if you fall. You're trying new things. You're figuring out how to use a body. Well, it's a different level of a body. It is a changing
Right.
body, but we can be
Yes.
curious about it and just discover like, oh, what is it to lift
Right.
that? Oh, what is it to
Right.
take this walk? Again, just being curious with a new phase
Yeah.
rather than judgmental and harsh.
And honoring it and owning it instead of
Yeah.
being ashamed
And it's
or
inevitable, right? Like nothing is going to stop it, no matter how much we wish and try and inject and all the things that we
right,
do and cut ourselves to try to look
right,
like we did back then.
right,
No matter what we do, if we don't have that peace of mind on the inside and that embracing of the shift and the change and to make it the best you possibly can, right? Like it's just leaning in, and the flow is going to be much less of a fight.
right. And it's also just such an honor to be at this point in our lives, especially looking at younger women that um, look up to me.
Hmm.
And I love being a mentor now. I love moving into the mentor years because I finally feel like I've reached a spot at the table where I can show up with what that means
Yeah, yeah.
and impart my wisdom and impart all the lessons that I've learned and impart what worked for me and what didn't work for me, some of the tried and true tools that I've used to maintain this body, maintain my energy, maintain how I look, how I feel. And I feel like I'm a good representation for that. And I'm proud of that. And I'm proud
Mhm.
of the hard work I've done and the consistency and consistently showing up. And I feel like at this point, I really have some great messaging to give to the younger generations that are
Mhm.
coming in and looking for someone to for guidance.
Right, right. And I just want to say for all the folks out there listening that even with great challenge, because I feel like I was given great health challenge simply for the humanity of what it is to struggle, and the grit that it takes to continue to try to figure out what's not working, what's hitting my system in an imbalanced way, even if everybody says that works well. Everybody says that, this is where individualized medicine is so important because
Right.
there's definitely no one size fits all.
Um,
And I'm definitely here for that for people. Let's look at what your individual life, your
right.
individual body is doing and saying, and how is it calling us for it to support it?
Right. Yeah. I mean, having that support and having a team around you can make everything just move along more seamlessly. Having the expertise to support you um, for whatever goals that you might have for your own health challenges, and to be able to move through the years just more gracefully
Hmm.
and
Absolutely.
less dependence on the medical system.
Yeah.
Because the more you let things get out of control with your health, being an advocate for yourself, having agency for yourself, and you once you relinquish that to the medical system and you get sucked into that world, well, forget it. Then you're on the hamster wheel of pills, surgeries, side effects, and it just doesn't end.
Right.
Extracting yourself out of that, which unfortunately, that's a lot of my clients. That's when they come to me, is when they're so tired of being tied into that traditional medical system without any sort of health directives. They're feeling totally out of control and basically terrified that they're going to die a horrible, miserable death, and the rest of their days won't consist of any quality of life whatsoever.
Right.
So, and that's something you definitely don't want to experience because it's no fun, it's scary, it's expensive, it's depressing. I can't think of any positives for looking at just depending on the traditional medical system for your quote unquote health.
Right. Right. Most people aren't being fully heard. There's no time. Most appointments are 5 to 15 minutes if you're
Yeah.
lucky,
Yeah.
So how can you reveal what's really unfolding and dysfunctioning in your system, and instead you get something to put to cover up a symptom, which is again trying to silence a communication system.
Right. You're basically just shutting the communication
Yeah.
system down with the body starts with a whisper and you're coming with some symptomology and instead of the doctor saying, well, what are you eating? How are you sleeping? What kind of movement are you having in your day? What's your level of stress? They're like, no, let's just throw a statin at this and see what
Mhm.
happens. And then once you start doing that, then the whole cascade of side effects starts to begin and it becomes this and this and that and that, and it just keeps snowballing and snowballing.
Yep.
Whereas that could have been directed specifically, maybe just a couple little tweaks in your diet and this and that, and that would have come down naturally, and you
Mhm.
wouldn't have needed any of that.
Right. Right.
But as you said, 5 to 10 minutes with a doctor isn't really going to give them much of a picture of the landscape that they're dealing with
Right.
as far as like your health is concerned. Like,
Yes.
oh well, yeah, it's frustrating. So again, let's say we're talking about exercise, so we went over cardio, um, limiting or just lessening some people love their endurance, and I'm not saying like totally cut out the endurance if it's still working for you and it's something that you need therapeutically for yourself, but at the end of the day, it does have its deficits. And I really do think that at a certain point, heavy endurance training does break the body down.
Right.
So supplementing it with, I love my HIIT workouts. I've really
Hmm.
discovered doing quick intervals of like jump rope and just jumping around and then taking a minute in between, working up to your maximum cardio and then letting it settle down and doing that. I do that 20 minutes. 3 times a week.
Yes.
I love to do zone two exercise, which is like a moderate hike done at a pretty quick clip, but not, so you can still talk. So you're
Hmm.
not panting. So that's a zone two. And the studies have shown that that is really a beneficial exercise for women for the cortisol, for the metabolism, for the hormones. So again, and you can go outside and take a nice hike, have a walking group with your friends, an opportunity to be social. Dancing is a great way to get your exercise in. I start my morning every with a quote unquote dance, not necessarily like a choreography, but I do love to move my body in a dancerly fashion. I really feel like it just like for
And it's
myself.
just darn fun, right? Like
It
if we can
fills my
get,
soul up and it's fun.
yep,
It's yeah.
if we can do the things that feel fun too, there's more of a possibility that we're going to follow through with it.
Absolutely. And continue with it. So whether that's the dance or a walking group or, jumping on the jump, there's a trampoline is also super fun. Finding a community to exercise with. So it's really unlimited and you can mix and match. So it's not like you have to do the same thing every single day. You can do 2 days of Pilates. You can do 3 days of strength training with some HIIT training. You can do one day of dance. You could do bar classes. You could add yoga in, Tai Chi, Pilates. I mean, there's so much in the realm of movement that it's quite, you can just mix and match and pick what turns you on the most, which is like, as you
Absolutely.
said, the key. Otherwise, you're not going to stick with it. It's
Yeah,
just, and consistency is key for sure. If you
totally.
really want to see the results, this is for life. You kind of make a commitment to yourself that if you really want to see the changes, and it's going to take consistency
One day at a time. And what do they say?
at a time.
Discipline is the ultimate act of self-love.
That's right. And also listening. Some days I'll wake up and I said, I'm really tired. I feel depleted, and I feel like exercising today would further compound that. And I take the day off.
Yep. Listening,
Yeah.
listening closely.
Again, it's not the obsessive. You can go the obsessive route. You can take this to the extreme, I think too, where you're
Right.
counting every calorie, everything you eat, you're neurotic about, anything interrupting your schedule of, self-care. And I feel like
Yeah.
that has a major backlash as well, where um you're not even enjoying yourself at all. You've become obsessed with monitoring every little minute of your life. And
Mm-hmm.
that's an extreme. And I see that a lot in the health world. People have orthorexia where they won't eat anything unless it's absolutely perfect and organic. And also anorexia. I see a lot of women on social media that say they're eating all this and that, and you can tell that they have all
Right.
the signs of anorexia and control issues, obsessive compulsive perfectionism, and then going into the plastic surgery realm. I have absolutely no shade for anyone who is doing any of that stuff. This is your journey, but at the end of the day, I really feel like balance is such key
Right.
for.
And that you are doing it from a place of like, it's on your terms, it's
Yeah,
for you, right? Like not to please something else, you know, feel empowered with your choices on that.
right.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
being happy, feeling satisfied, and not striving for perfection because there is no such thing.
Right. It's an illusion.
It is.
And everybody's definition of perfection looks so different. So what are
Right.
we shooting for
Yeah.
anyway?
Yeah.
Right.
What's the template for perfection?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like it's very individual. Like what is good health look like for you? What
Hmm.
is looking good for you? It's not what everyone else says it is. It's for yourself. When you look in the mirror, are you happy with what you see and how you feel? And what do you need to make you feel better about yourself?
Hmm.
It's certainly not driving yourself crazy, I'll tell you
Nope.
that.
All right.
So
Great.
moving on to sleep, I feel like for me, this is like so key. And I found that was another thing that really was thrown into chaos during peri and postmenopause was my sleep. And I'm still fine-tuning my approach to how I'm able to get the best night's sleep possible at this point. So What have you found?
Super important for getting that REM sleep in which we will have more secretion of our growth hormone also, which if
Mm.
we did a good balanced resistance training exercise, we will secrete more of, especially if we, like particularly after a session, if you have some protein afterwards, support the muscle, then we're able to tap into our growth hormone secretion. And
Yes.
also noting that when we don't get enough sleep, it will completely start to set off your cortisol surges
Mm.
and then also your insulin surges. So we have a much higher risk for prediabetes and insulin resistance when
Yes.
we simply just don't get enough sleep.
Right.
So all the repair happens during that time. And, again, it's important to get it and to understand what's interfering. I certainly have had a lifelong challenge with sleep and have to do quite a few things to get myself down to
Yes.
sleep. So,
It's a ritual.
it
It's a
totally
ritual for
is.
me. Yeah.
Totally is. And
It
again,
starts right after dinner. I
yeah,
start to
understanding
go
where
into,
it could be trauma related, it could be genetic related, it could
right,
be, how we're processing things differently. So there's so many
right,
layers to that. Nonetheless, super essential to get that balanced and adequate.
right. And that could be supplements, creating the right environment for sleep, giving your body and brain those cues that you're getting ready for sleep, which is so important for me. I start my little ritual after dinner. I dim the lights. I don't put on things that are overstimulating. I stop eating. No more drinking alcohol or food after 7 p.m. I do a very light yoga stretch and deep breathing. And then I get my tea, I get my supplements, I do my nice warm bath, or you could take an Epsom salt. And it's just getting yourself ready, and then you're going to get to sleep. Having no screens by the bed is a big that the light coming from the screens is really bad for the pineal gland. Having a good quality bedding. I know my pets really disrupt my sleep, so I as much as I love them, I cannot have them in my bed with me, or maybe just one cat. But if I have everyone in, forget about it. It's like the worst night's sleep of my life. And I know people have their pets with them, and I don't think they're getting the night's sleep that they would like.
Yeah.
So splurge on nice bedding, really nice sheets. You're going to spend, what is it, a quarter of your life in bed? Like, make it a place of luxury.
A
Make it
quarter
so
to,
you
to a
can't wait
third
to
in
get in
bed.
bed at night. You're like, ah.
It's an
So
investment. Yeah.
it is. It is. So, and then, whatever supplements that can help aid you in sleep. And again, that's different for everybody. Some people don't like melatonin. It doesn't work for them.
Oh,
Or,
yeah.
you know,
It could go opposite direction. I am one of them.
yeah,
And I'm the canary in the coal mine where it's like, try this, it'll do this. Nope, I'm having an opposite effect. And
right,
that's where, understanding our own genetics. But this is where, getting to listen very closely and understanding um, what your own individual unique expression is. So,
right.
so valuable.
Right. And this is where the journaling really comes in big for me. I mean, here's my journal. I write in it every day. Anything that needs to be noted, I take note. And it's really helped me see patterns in fluctuations in my sleeping and my whatever it is. But you start to have to put the puzzle together. And for sleep, for me, I noticed just by journaling and writing down how my quality of sleep, my dreams, and noting like what did I do? I slept really great last night. Like what did I do? Or I slept like shit last night. Like what happened? And then just noticing that you can really fine tune your approach. So you are getting the best night's sleep. And those shitty nights become less and less. And your quality of life the next day, it's like a different person. When you have a good night's sleep, you wake up, you're like, yes. Mood is great, your energy is great, you're excited, you're inspired, you have energy in spades, and when you get a shitty night's sleep, it's the opposite, I find.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And also like if you are chronically have bad sleep, it's shown to have very bad effects on your health in later years, whether it's cancer or Alzheimer's, dementia, and a plethora of other diseases are definitely correlated to having inadequate sleep.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Immune system, yeah. So that is definitely important. And now here we are at these are my lifestyle non-negotiables that I feel like translate across the board pretty much to everybody.
Yep.
And for our age, for peri and postmenopausal, these are kind of like the foundation of my health protocol. So my strength training, adequate quality sleep, like we were just saying, if I don't get my sleep, I am just like a quarter of the person I like to be. Blood sugar regulation, super important. Adequate protein and fats, decreasing cardio, decreasing adipose and visceral fats, decreasing alcohol, and especially beer. I don't know what you've heard about beer, but I heard that hops are have a very strong correlation on having a negative effect with your sex hormones in both men and women.
There, it's more downer. You
Yeah. And it also has some sort of weird estrogenic effect.
know?
It's
Hmm.
especially bad for men. They're finding that men who drink a lot of beer have markedly decreased testosterone levels.
Yeah.
So I think there's more that's going to be coming out because alcohol can definitely interrupt your sleep and your hormones. I feel like within reason, but drinking too much can have a deleterious effect on
Yeah.
your health and obviously drug usage.
Yep.
I feel like goes for prescribed drugs and just recreational
Hmm.
drug use and stress. Those are my lifestyle non-negotiables. Do you have anything else that you think should
That
be?
pretty much encompasses it, and it's a lot of work, but when you get it to you get yourself structured around it, it makes it more easy to just become habit. That's just
Yeah,
the way you live your life.
yeah, exactly. It's about and again, it depends on where everyone's at. We all come in with these different deficits. So, maybe you're strength training, but your sleep is bad. You're
Mhm.
not getting enough protein, and you're drinking too much alcohol. And so it's different for everybody. So again, trying to find that balance that um, creates the best version of yourself is where it's at.
And at the end of the day, sealing it up with love,
That's right. And
love and
gratitude.
grace, love, grace, and gratitude.
That's right.
It's ultimately having the opportunity to live and experience the best life possible because we
Right.
feel well and balanced.
And being kind to yourself
Hmm.
in a society that wants you to constantly keep beating yourself down because people who are disempowered and broken down are more susceptible to the system that
Yeah.
can benefit from that sort of
Yes.
mindset. So having agency over yourself, I feel like is absolutely key. And all these things that we talked about today are all things that we can all implement in our lives ourselves.
One step at a time, one day at a time.
That's right. Awesome.
Awesome. Well, what a great
Yay.
chat today.
Yeah, we really covered a lot of bases and
Hmm.
kind of did a broad kind of lifestyle. I wouldn't say medical, but it is medical. What you do is more of the medical
Hmm.
end of
Yeah,
medical.
and I can talk more deeply about some of those more technical
Yeah.
medical case perspective of things, what we
Yeah,
measure, what we look like, what that looks like in our body, what the
right.
imbalance looks like, all of that stuff. Although we did go through a lot of that already. But
It
yeah.
would be interesting to go over like what a lab panel is and what it looks
Mhm.
like. And because that was new for me when I first
Yeah.
got my labs done with you. That was a whole even bigger picture, and it was such an important component to
Mhm.
kind of fine-tuning everything that
It
I'm doing now.
helps to make the picture of symptoms in which you are experiencing, it helps to make sense
Right.
of it all and
Right.
gives us breadcrumbs in the forest to know what lead to follow.
Right. Awesome. Well, to be continued.
Indeed.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. And I hope you enjoyed all the information that we shared. And my deepest gratitude to Dr. Monica Montoya, who is just such a wealth of knowledge and such a joy to interact with on these topics. So, all right, to be continued.
Thank you. And
And
thank you to the gracious
you.
Tracy for, yeah, not only your wealth of wisdom, but also for the key component to helping me move through that ring of fire of this
Yeah.
menopausal shift and change.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
Yes.
All right. See you soon. Bye.